3, 2, 1, and go. Hi, people. Today we're going to read a book that's called Roald Dahl, Matilda, illustrated by Quentin Blake. And this name right here, Roald Dahl, is the same author by Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Charlie and the Great Big Glass Elevator, Fantastic Mr. Fox, The Witches, Matilda, right here, and James and the Giant Peach. So there's 6 books. I know there's more, okay, but we don't have that from the school library, okay? So, and we're gonna have surprises, but those you're not gonna have them, but you can get some prizes in here when you subscribe, but there's only a fee, okay? Roald Dahl, Matilda. The reader of books. It's a funny thing about mothers and fathers. Even when their own child is the most disgusting little blister you could ever imagine, they still think that he or she is wonderful. Some parents go further. They become so blind by adoration, they imagine to convince themselves their child has qualities of genius. Well, there is nothing very wrong with all of this. It's the way of the world. It is only when the parents begin telling us about brilliance of their own vulturing offspring that we start shouting, "Bring us a basin! We're going to be sick!" School teachers suffer a good deal from having to listen to this sort of twaddle from proud parents, but they usually get their own back when the time comes to write the end of the term reports. If I were a teacher, I would cook up some real scriptures for the children of daunting parents. Your son Maximilian, I would write, is a total washout. I hope you will have a family business you can push him into when he leaves school, because he sure as heck won't get a job anywhere else. Or if I were feeling lyrical that day, I might write, "If is a curious truth that grasshoppers have their hearing organs in the size of the abdomen. Your daughter Vendessa, judging by what she's learned this term, has no hearing organs at all." I might even delve deeper into natural history and say the Predicus kitida spent 6 years as a grub underground, and no more than 6 days as a free creature of sunlight and air. Your son Wilfred has spent waiting for him to emerge from the crystals. A particularly poisonous little girl might sting me into saying, "Fiona has the same graceful beauty as an iceberg, but unlike the iceberg, she has absolutely nothing below the surface." I think I might enjoy writing end-of-term reports for the stinkers in my class. But enough of that. We have to get on. Occasionally, one comes across parents who take the opposite line, who show no interest at all in their children, and these, of course, are far worse than the dawning ones. Mr. and Miss Wormwood were 2 such parents. They had a son called Michael and a daughter called Matilda, and the parents looked upon Matilda in particular as nothing you can scab. A scab is something you have to put up with until the time comes when you can pick it off and flick it away. Mr. and Miss Wormwood looked forward enormously to the time when they could pick their little daughter off and flick her away, preferably into the next country or even further than that. It is bad enough when parents treat ordinary children with as though as they were scabs and bunions, but it becomes somehow a lot worse when the child in question is extraordinary. And by that I mean sensitive and brilliant. Matilda was both of these things, but above all she was brilliant. Her mind was so nimble, and she was so quick to learn that her ability should have been obvious even to the most half-witted of parents. But Mr. and Miss Wormwood were both so gloomy and so wrapped up in their own silly little lives that they failed to notice anything usual about their daughter. To tell the truth, I had about to have noticed that had she crawled into the house with a broken leg. Matilla's daughter, brother Michael, has a perfectly normal boy, but the sister, as I said, was something to make her eyes pop. By the age of 1.5, her speech was perfect, and she knew as many words as most grown-ups. The parents, instead of upbraiding her, called her noisy chatterbox and told her sharply that small girls should be seen and not heard. By the time she was 3, Matilda had taught herself to read by studying newspapers and magazines that lay around the house. At the age of 4, she could read fast and well, and she naturally began hankering after books. The only book in the whole of this invented household was something called Easy Cooking, belonging to her mother, and when she had read this from cover to cover and had learned all the recipes by heart, she decided she wanted something more interesting. What should we have in store? Daddy, she said, do you think you could buy me a book? A book, he said. What do you want a flaming book for? To read, Daddy. What's wrong with the telly, or heaven's sake? We've got lovely telly with a 12-inch screen, and now you're coming asking for a book? You're getting spoiled, my little girl. Nearly every day weekday afternoon, Matilda was left alone in her house. Her brother, 5 years older than her, went to school. Her father went to work, and her mother went out playing bingo in a town 8 miles away. Miss Wormwood was hooked on bingo and played it 5 afternoons a week. On the afternoon of the day when her father had refused to buy her a book, Matilda set out all by herself to walk to the public library of the village. When she arrived, she introduced herself to the library. Miss Phelps asked if she might sit a while and read a book. Miss Phelps, slightly taken aback at the arrival of such a tiny girl, uncomplicated by appearance, nervousness told her she was very welcome. Where's the children's book, please? Matilda asked. They're over there on those lower shelves, Miss Phelps told her. Would you like me to help you find a nice one with lots of pictures in it? No, thank you, Matilda said. I'm sure I can manage. From then on, every afternoon, as soon as her mother had left for bingo, Matilda was toddled down to the library. The walk took only 10 minutes, and this allowed her 2 glorious hours sitting quietly by herself in a cozy corner, devouring one book after another. When she had read every single children's book in the place, she started wandering around in search of something else. Miss Phelps, who had been watching her with thanks for the past few weeks, now got from her desk and went over to her. Can I help you, Matilda? She asked. I'm wondering what to read next, Matilda said. Finish all the children's books. You mean look at all the pictures? Yes, but I've read the books that well. Miss Phelps looked down at Matilda from her great height, and Matilda looked right back at her. I thought some were very poor, Matilda said, but others were lovely. I liked The Secret Garden best of all. It was full of mystery. The mystery of the room behind the closed door, and the mystery of the garden behind the big wall. Miss Phelps was stunned. "Exactly how old are you, Matilda?" she asked. "4 years and 3 months," Matilda said. Miss Phelps was more stunned than ever, but she had the sense not to show. "What sort of book would you like to read next?" she asked. Matilda said, "I'd like a really good one that grown-ups read, a famous one. I don't know any names." Miss Phelps looked along the shelves, taking her time. She didn't quite know what to bring out. How, she asked herself. Does one choose a famous grown-up book for a 4-year-old girl? Her first thought was to pick a young teenager's romance, so the kind that's written for 15-year-old schoolgirls, but some that reason she found herself instinctively walking past that particular shelf. "Try this," she said at least. "It's very famous and very good. If it's too long for you, just let me know and I'll find something shorter and a bit easier." Great Exploration, Television by Charles Dickens. I'd love to try it. "I'd just be glad," Miss Phelps told herself. But to Matilda, she said, "Of course you may try it." Over the next few afternoons, Miss Phelps could hardly take her eyes from the small girl sitting for hour after hour in the big armchair at the far end of the room with the books on her lap. It was necessary to rest and sit on the lap because it was too heavy for her to hold up, which meant she had to sit leaning forward in order to read. And a straight sight it was. This tiny dark-haired person sitting there with her feet nowhere near touching the floor, totally absorbed in the wonderful adventures of Pip and the old Miss Havisham and her cobwebbed house, and by the spell of magic that Dickens, the great storyteller, had woven with his words. The only moment from the reader was the lifting in her every now and then turn over a page, and Miss Phillips always felt sad when the time came for her to cross the floor and say, "It's 5:10, Matilda." During the first week of Matilda's visits, Miss Phillips said to her, "Doesn't Mother walk you down here every day and then take you home?" "My mother goes to Acton every afternoon to play bingo," Matilda had said. "She doesn't know I come here." "But that's surely not right," Miss Phillips said. "I think you better ask her." "I'd rather not," Matilda said. "He doesn't encourage reading books, nor does he play." "But what do they expect you to do every afternoon in an empty house?" "Just make around and watch the telly, I see." "She doesn't really care what I do," Matilda said a little sadly. Miss Phillips was concerned about the child's safety on the walk through the fairly busy village high street and crossing off the road, but she decided not to interfere. Within a week, Matilda had finished Great Expectations, which in that edition contained 411 pages. "I loved it," he said to Miss Phelps. "Has Mr. Dickens write any others?" "A great number," said the announced Miss Phelps. "Shall I choose you another?" Over the next 6 months, under Miss Phelps' watchful and compassionate eye, Matilda read the following book: Nicholas Nickleby, Oliver Twist, Jane Eyre, Pride and Prejudice, Tessa D. Beavers, blah 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 blah. It was formidable list, and now by Miss Phillips was filled with wonder and sadness. But it was probably a good thing that he did not allow himself to through the way by it. And if anyone else witnessed the achievements of this small child would have been tempted to make a great fuss and shout the news all over the village and beyond. But not so Miss Phelps. She was someone who minded her own business and had long since discovered it was seldom required to interfere with other people's children. Miss Hemingway says a lot of things I don't understand, Matilda said to her, especially about men and women. But I love it all the same. The way he tells it, I feel I am right there on the spot, watching it all happen. A fine writer will always make you feel that, Miss Phelps said. And don't worry about the bits you can understand. Sit back and allow the words to wash around you like music. I will. Do you know, Miss Phelps said, that public libraries like this allow you to borrow books and take them home? I didn't know that, Matilda said. Could I do it? Of course, Miss Phelps said. When do you have chosen a book you want, bring it to me so I can make a note of it and it's yours to keep. You can take more than one if you wish. From then on, Matilda will visit the library only once a week in order to take out new books and return the older ones. Her own small bedroom now became her reading room, and there she would sit and read most afternoons, often with a mug of hot chocolate beside her. She was not quite tall enough to reach things around the kitchen, but she kept a small box in the outhouse which she brought in and stewed on in order to get whatever she wanted. Mostly it was hot chocolate she made, warming the milk in saucepan on the stove before mixing it. Occasionally she made Bovril or Ovaltine. It was pleasant to take a hot drink up to her room and have it beside her as she sat in her silent room cleaning in the empty house in the afternoons. The books transported her into new worlds and introduced her to amazing people who lived exciting lives. She went on olden days sailing ships with Joseph Conrad. She went to Africa with Ernest Hemingway and to India with Rudyard Kipling. She traveled all over the world while sitting in her little room in an English village. Chapter 2, Wormwood, the Great Car Dealer. So now we're going to stop on Chapter 2, and we're going to look in the prizes we're going to have and count how many there are in there. So there's just a stocking, and there's some balls. So we're going to do that later. So bye. See you next time. Make sure to subscribe. Bye.